My fiancé secretly tried to cancel our dream wedding venue so he could give our deposit to his sister. So I didn't just break off the engagement. I systematically disassembled his entire life, left for our non-refundable honeymoon with my best friend, and let his family's lies destroy them from the inside out. Here is everything that happened, from the initial betrayal to the fallout that is still unfolding. My ex-fiancé, Mark, 29M, and I, 27F, had been together for 4 years, engaged for 1. From the outside, our relationship seemed solid. We lived together, split our bills down the middle, and were actively planning our future. But there was always one recurring dark cloud in our relationship. Mark's family, specifically his younger sister, Chloe, 24F. Chloe is the undisputed golden child of the family. If Chloe wanted a new car in college, her parents would guilt-trip Mark into contributing to her down payment. If Chloe failed a class, it was everyone else's fault for stressing her out. Mark's parents, Susan and David, raised him to believe that his primary role in life was to act as Chloe's financial and emotional safety net. Over the years, I had managed to establish firm boundaries for myself, but Mark was deeply brainwashed. He couldn't say no to them without having a panic attack. Last year, Mark and I started planning our wedding. We settled on a gorgeous, rustic lakefront venue about 2 hours outside our city. It was a renovated historic barn with glass walls looking out over the water, and it was notoriously difficult to book. We got extremely lucky with a cancellation for a prime Saturday in October. We agreed to split all wedding expenses 50-50. However, when it came time to secure the venue, Mark's bank account was low because he had loaned Chloe $2,000 for a trip to Europe that she never paid back. So, I paid the entire $6,000 non-refundable venue deposit out of my personal savings account, with the agreement that he would pay me back his $3,000 share over time. The contract, card, and point of contact were strictly in my name. Everything was going smoothly until 3 weeks ago, when Chloe announced her sudden engagement to her boyfriend of 6 months, Tyler. The moment Chloe got engaged, the family dynamic turned chaotic. Chloe immediately wanted a grand, Pinterest-worthy wedding, but neither she nor Tyler had any savings. Tyler works part-time, and Chloe spends money faster than she earns it. Naturally, Susan and David turned to Mark to help his little sister out. A week after Chloe's announcement, Mark came home from dinner at his parents' house looking visibly nervous. He paced around the kitchen for 10 minutes before sitting me down. He said, "So, Chloe is really stressed about venue shopping. Everything in her budget looks terrible, and she actually started crying at dinner tonight because she realized she won't get her dream day." I felt bad for her, but I knew where this was going. I asked, "Okay, so what are her plans?" Mark cleared his throat and said, "Well, she absolutely loves our venue. We were thinking, since our wedding is still 8 months away, what if we downgrade our venue to a local community center or a park pavilion? We could transfer our lakefront venue reservation to Chloe, and she could pay us back whenever she has the money. It would mean the world to my family." I sat there in absolute stunned silence. He was asking me to give up the venue I had meticulously researched, fought to reserve, and paid $6,000 for, so his sister could have it on my dime, while we got married in a fluorescent-lit rec hall. I looked at him and said, "Mark, tell me you're joking." He got defensive immediately. "I'm not joking. Family comes first, Op. She's my sister. You're being completely unsupportive and selfish. It's just a venue. The marriage is what matters." I stood my ground. "No, Mark. I paid that $6,000 deposit out of my hard-earned money. I am not giving up our date or our location so your sister can play princess on my dime. The answer is no, and this conversation is over." He slammed the bedroom door, muttered under his breath for the rest of the night, and gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. By day 3, he acted like nothing had happened. He was suddenly attentive, bringing me coffee and apologizing for being under stress. I thought the issue was dead and buried. I was dead wrong. 4 days later, I was sitting at my desk at work when my phone buzzed. It was an automated email notification from the venue coordinator at the lakefront property. The subject line read, "Confirmation of cancellation and refund status." My heart plummeted into my stomach. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely open the email. The message stated, "Dear Op, per your verbal request over the phone this morning, your reservation for October 12th has been canceled. As per our policy, partial refunds take 5-7 business days to process back to the original card." I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone and immediately dialed the venue coordinator, Sarah. When Sarah answered, I practically hyperventilated into the mic. "Sarah, I just got a cancellation email. I didn't cancel my wedding." Sarah was confused. "Wait, Op! A man called us about 2 hours ago claiming to be your fiancé, Mark. He gave us your contract number, your date, and full personal details. He claimed that you two had broken up, that you were too devastated to call yourself, and that you authorized him to cancel the booking and release the date." My blood ran cold. Sarah continued, however, because the contract explicitly states that only the primary cardholder, you, can make structural modifications or cancellations. I flagged the file. "I sent the automated confirmation to your email to double-check before releasing the date on our public calendar. I haven't actually dropped your reservation yet." I nearly cried with relief. "Sarah, do not cancel that reservation. Put a lock on my account. Add a password that only I know. Mark had zero authority to do that." "Consider it done," Sarah said, horrified by what was happening. "I am setting a secret security pin on your file right now." After hanging up, I sat in my car in the office parking lot, shaking with rage. Mark hadn't just asked. He had impersonated me, lied about a breakup, and tried to destroy our wedding behind my back, all to hand the venue over to Chloe, who was undoubtedly waiting in the wings to snag the newly opened date the moment it hit the system. When I got home that evening, Mark was sitting on the couch watching TV, completely nonchalant. I stood in front of the television, crossed my arms, and said, "Did you call the venue today?" He didn't even flinch. He looked up, took a sip of his drink, and shrugged. "Oh, Sarah called you already? Look, Op, don't throw a fit. Chloe was crying again last night. She was devastated. I did what a good brother is supposed to do. I was going to tell you tonight after I booked a nice community hall for us. It's practical, it saves us money, and it helps my sister. You'll get over it." The utter lack of remorse, the sheer audacity, and the casual gaslighting broke something inside me. I realized in that exact second that I wasn't looking at my future husband. I was looking at a spineless puppet controlled by his family, who would bleed me dry financially and emotionally for the rest of my life if I let him. I felt a sudden, terrifying sense of calm wash over me. If I yelled, he would call me crazy, spin the narrative to his parents, and make himself out to be the victim. So I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a single object. I just stared at him, blinked, and said softly, "I see." Mark looked confused by my reaction. "Wait, you're not mad." "I'm just tired, Mark," I said evenly. "I'm going to take a bath." He smiled, relieved, thinking he had won. "Thanks, babe. I knew you'd understand eventually. Family comes first." That night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I began planning. Over the next 48 hours, I worked with absolute surgical precision. First, I called my bank. Mark and I had a joint checking account where we pooled money for rent and shared groceries. Luckily, my main savings and paycheck went into a private account at a completely different bank. I transferred every single cent of my personal money out of the joint account, leaving only Mark's exact portion of the upcoming rent. Second, I contacted our landlord. Since our lease was up for renewal in 2 months and was currently month-to-month under both our names, I provided written notice that I was removing myself from the lease at the end of the month. I paid my half of the final month's rent directly to the landlord and requested that my name be stripped from all utilities. Third, I turned my attention to our honeymoon. 6 months prior, I had booked a luxury 10-day trip to Oahu, Hawaii. I had paid for the entire thing using $300,000 of my own credit card reward points and cash out of my personal account. The flights, the beachfront resort, the private helicopter tour, all of it was under my name. I called the airline and the hotel. I removed Mark's name from the flight tickets and hotel reservation. Because the ticket transfer fee was minimal, I transferred his airline seat to my best friend, Sarah. Sarah had been tracking this entire nightmare in real time and was more than ready to step in. Finally, I packed. On Thursday morning, I waited for Mark to leave for his 8:00 a.m. work shift. The second his car pulled out of the driveway, Sarah arrived with a moving truck. In 4 hours, I cleared out every single thing I owned. My furniture, my kitchen appliances, my clothes, my TV, even the wall art I had bought. I left the apartment half empty, stripped the bed down to the bare mattress, and left only his belongings neatly piled in the center of the living room. Before leaving, I took my engagement ring off. I placed it on the kitchen counter directly on top of a printed page of the venue's strict safety and cancellation policies, with the words, "Only the primary account holder may make changes," highlighted in bright neon yellow. At 2:00 p.m., Sarah and I drove to the airport, checked our bags, and walked into the first-class lounge. Our flight to Hawaii was at 4:30 p.m. At 5:15 p.m., Mark's work shift ended, and he walked into the apartment. My phone was sitting on the table next to my mimosa in the airport lounge when it started buzzing. Mark's caller ID flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Then came the text messages. "Mark, op, where is the furniture? Why is the apartment empty? Mark, what is going on? Where are you? Why is your ring on the counter? Mark, answer the phone right now." When he realized I wasn't responding to texts, he called again. This time, I answered on speakerphone so Sarah could hear. "Op, what the freak is this?" Mark screamed, his voice cracking with pure panic. "Did we get robbed? Where is all your stuff? Why is my key barely working on the deadbolt?" "Oh, right. I had also paid a locksmith $150 to change the deadbolt locks on my way out, providing the landlord with the new key, since Mark was being removed from the lease at the end of the month." I took a calm sip of my drink and said, "We didn't get robbed, Mark. I moved out." Silence fell over the line for 5 seconds. What? What do you mean you moved out? What about the wedding? What about Hawaii? We leave tomorrow morning. Correction, I said smoothly. I leave in 20 minutes. You are staying right there. I canceled your flight, transferred the ticket to Sarah, and removed your name from the resort. The ring is on the counter. We are done. Mark lost his mind. He went from rage to hyperventilating sorrow in a fraction of a second. "Op, no, please. You can't do this over a venue. It was just a venue. I was trying to help my sister." "You didn't just try to help your sister, Mark," I replied. "You committed fraud, lied about our relationship to a business, tried to steal $6,000 of my money, and proved that I will always come second to your family's absurd demands. You wanted to give things away to your family? Great. Now you can spend the week helping Chloe plan her cheap wedding because you no longer have one." "Op, please," he sobbed. "I don't have money for rent next month if you leave. My mom is going to be furious." "Since family comes first," I said, "I'm sure Susan and Chloe will be delighted to pay your rent. Goodbye, Mark." I hung up and instantly blocked his number. 10 minutes after blocking Mark, my phone began blowing up from unknown numbers. It was his mother, Susan. She sent a barrage of increasingly unhinged text messages. "You selfish, hysterical little girl. How dare you abandon my son over a simple misunderstanding? You have ruined his life. He is sitting in an empty apartment crying. You owe our family an apology, and you better transfer those Hawaii tickets back to him right now, or I will make sure everyone knows what kind of monster you are." Then came Chloe. "I can't believe you're doing this to Mark. You're so petty. You ruined my wedding announcement, and now you're ruining my brother's life. You never loved him." I didn't argue. Instead, I took screenshots of every single text message Mark had sent admitting he tried to cancel the venue behind my back, along with the email from the coordinator proving he impersonated me. I made a public post on Facebook, tagging Mark, Susan, and Chloe. "To all our friends and family, due to Mark secretly impersonating me to cancel our wedding venue without my knowledge, in an attempt to steal my non-refundable $6,000 deposit to give to his sister, our engagement is officially over. I will not be marrying someone who lies, commits fraud, and prioritizes deceit over partnership. Please direct all future inquiries to Mark and his family. Sarah and I will be enjoying Hawaii. I attached the screenshots of the emails, the text admissions, and a photo of Sarah and me clinking glass cups in the airport lounge. Then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, boarded the plane, and took off. When Sarah and I landed in Oahu, I turned off airplane mode. My phone nearly crashed from the sheer volume of notifications. The Facebook post had absolutely exploded. Mark's extended family, his aunts, uncles, and cousins, had seen the receipts. Apparently, Susan had originally run to the extended family claiming that I had randomly had a mental breakdown, dumped Mark out of nowhere, and stolen his honeymoon. But my post with the literal paper trail exposed everything. The comment section was a war zone. Mark's aunt commented, "Susan, you told us Op abandoned him. She literally posted the emails. Mark tried to forge her signature. What is wrong with you guys?" Mark's college friends slammed him. "Bro, you tried to steal her deposit for Chloe. That's insane. You brought this on yourself." When Mark's friends and extended family stopped taking his side, Susan's narrative completely collapsed. Over the next 3 days in Hawaii, while Sarah and I were hiking waterfalls, sipping cocktails, and relaxing on beaches, the reality hit Mark's family like a freight train. Without my income, Mark couldn't afford the 2-bedroom apartment we had lived in. The landlord informed him that since I had formally removed myself from the lease renewal, Mark had to either prove he made 3 times the rent alone, which he didn't, or vacate by the end of the month. Furthermore, because I had pulled my money out of our joint account, Mark was left with barely $1,200 in his checking account. When he went to his parents to ask for help paying his rent and securing a new deposit, Susan and David had to tell him the truth. They couldn't help him. It turns out Susan and David had 0 actual savings. They had been relying on the assumption that Mark and I would pay for Chloe's wedding expenses, just as Mark had secretly promised them we would. When Mark realized his family had pushed him to sabotage his own relationship based on promises they couldn't back up, he finally snapped at them. I have been back from Hawaii for a week now. I am officially settled into a gorgeous new 1-bedroom apartment closer to my job. My life feels lighter, quieter, and completely free of toxic drama. Mark reached out to me one last time through an email address I hadn't blocked yet. His tone was completely broken. He told me that he had to move back into his parents' basement because he couldn't find an affordable apartment on short notice. He admitted that Chloe's fiancé, Tyler, broke off their engagement after seeing the public Facebook drama and realizing how manipulative and financially unstable Chloe's family was. Mark wrote, "Op, I lost everything. I lost my apartment, my fiancé, my future, and my friends. My sister isn't even getting married anymore. I see now how toxic my family is and how much they used me. I am so sorry for what I did to you. I don't expect you to take me back, but I needed you to know that you were right about everything." I read the email. I felt a slight twinge of pity, but 0 regret. I replied with a short message. "I'm glad you finally see your family for who they are, Mark. I hope you get the therapy you need to build a backbone. Do not contact me again." I blocked his email address. As for the venue, the coordinator, Sarah, was so amazed by how I handled the situation that she helped me convert my non-refundable $6,000 deposit into a credit for a massive 30th birthday bash I'm planning for next year. Mark's family tried to make me the villain in their story, but in the end, they destroyed their own kingdom. Meanwhile, I got a free tropical vacation, my self-respect back, and a front row seat to the ultimate karma.